In the archives of the Galactic Concord, there exists a single entry that none dare open. It is sealed beneath 100 levels of encryption and guarded by laws older than most civilizations. The entry bears one word: Earth. 4 generations. That name has been whispered as both warning and legend. To speak it aloud is to summon the memory of the species that defied extinction itself. They say the humans were fragile, primitive, endlessly divided. Yet somehow, they reached the stars. They arrived not as conquerors, but as a force of nature, unpredictable, unstoppable, and frighteningly adaptive. Where others required centuries to colonize a world, humans needed only decades. Where others studied, they improvised. Where others retreated, they adapted. And when death came for them, they learned to fight it too. No one remembers the exact moment when the galaxy turned against them. Perhaps it was fear, perhaps it was envy. Humanity had discovered something no other race dared attempt: a way to merge thought, matter, and will. The Council labeled it biosingularity. The humans called it survival. Their experiments blurred the lines between life and machine, between planet and soul. To the galaxy, it was blasphemy. To humanity, it was evolution. Then came the War of Convergence. Every major civilization joined hands to destroy the Terran threat before it consumed everything. Fleets darkened the stars, and yet the humans did not yield. They fought like dying gods, laughing as their cities burned, turning defeat into strategy and loss into weapon. For every world they lost, they made the ashes fight back. When they finally fell, the victors celebrated too soon. The Earth that remained was wrong. Sensors could no longer penetrate its atmosphere. Probes returned in pieces, sometimes alive, sometimes whispering in human voices. The oceans glowed at night, and the continents shifted subtly, as though the planet itself were breathing. What should have been a dead world felt sentient, aware. The Council ordered a total quarantine. No ship was to approach the Sol system again. Earth was declared forbidden. But legends have a way of surviving, even in silence. Across the centuries, smugglers told stories of strange signals drifting through deep space, pulses repeating in mathematical rhythm. Linguists who decoded them swore it was Morse code. The message was simple, haunting: we remember. It became the most analyzed transmission in history, and yet no one dared investigate further. To the young races of the galaxy, humanity became a myth. To the old, a warning. Scholars debated whether humans had truly perished or had transformed into something beyond comprehension. Some claimed Earth had become a machine mind, others that it was a biological superorganism preserving the last fragments of human consciousness. A few radicals even believed humans had merged with the planet itself, achieving a form of planetary immortality. The official record dismissed these theories as superstition, but the silence around Earth was too perfect, too deliberate. It was as if the universe itself feared to remember them. The Council erased all star maps leading to Sol, deleted every archive containing Terran science, and purged even the names of their greatest minds. Humanity was not just destroyed, it was forgotten by decree. And yet, in the deepest void between stars, their echo remained. When travelers passed through the old Terran sectors, their instruments behaved strangely. Compasses spun wildly, data streams looped into human words, and once, an entire fleet vanished after receiving a simple transmission: coordinates to a blue planet. The captain's last recorded words were trembling and awed: "It's still alive." No one ever returned from that region again. They called it the Dead Zone. Some said it was haunted. Others insisted it was divine punishment. The truth, as it always was with humanity, refused to stay buried. Because humans had never accepted endings. Not in life, not in death, not even in the vast emptiness of time. Among the alien scholars, there remains an unspoken understanding: Earth is not to be touched. The penalty is death, not from the Council, but from something far older and far more personal. Those who tried to find it vanished without trace, as if consumed by the memory of mankind itself. Still, the whispers persist. Some claim to hear faint signals when they dream. Some say the stars near Sol flicker in rhythm to a human heartbeat. And a few, the most reckless of explorers, believe they can uncover the truth. They say that if you listen closely enough, past the noise of cosmic radiation, you can hear a voice carried by the remnants of light. A voice that sounds unmistakably human, calm and patient, waiting to be heard again. For centuries, the galaxy has called Earth forbidden. But perhaps the truth is far more terrifying. Perhaps it is not the galaxy that forbade Earth. Perhaps it was Earth that forbade the galaxy. They came in secret, under the veil of forbidden silence. No empire sponsored them. No council authorized the journey. They called themselves explorers, but greed and curiosity drove them more than science ever could. 6 ships, each crewed by different species, bound by one goal, to reach the world no one dared speak of. They named the mission Operation Genesis Echo. The galaxy had spent millennia erasing Earth from memory. These beings wanted to resurrect it. The leader, a Scythian named Drav, claimed to have recovered coordinates from an ancient human probe buried in a derelict archive. The data was incomplete, corrupted by time, but it contained one undeniable signature: human mathematics, pure and elegant. That was enough to ignite the obsession. Drav promised them that beyond the silence lay unimaginable technology, weapons of thought and matter, relics that could change the balance of galactic power. Every explorer knew the risks. Every one of them believed they would be the one to outsmart the myth. The journey through the void was unlike any they had taken before. Instruments began failing long before they reached the dead zone. Navigation beacons vanished from their maps as if reality itself was rejecting their approach. They passed through clouds of static energy that carried whispers and frequencies no translator could interpret. At first, they dismissed it as interference. Then, one of the communications officers froze while listening to a data stream. The static had formed words, human words. Turn back. They didn't. Arrogance is a language the galaxy speaks fluently. The expedition pressed onward, noting how the stars grew dimmer, how the black of space felt thicker, almost alive. The further they went, the more their technology degraded. Artificial intelligence cores flickered with strange behavior, reciting fragments of Terran literature as though something ancient was bleeding through the circuits. One ship reported hearing rhythmic thumping in its hull. The engineers insisted it was a mechanical fault, but those who heard it swore it sounded like a heartbeat. When they finally crossed into the Sol system, their scanners went blind. The sun hung unnaturally still, its light diffused through clouds of plasma that twisted like living veins. Planets orbited in eerie silence, lifeless, scarred, and yet not entirely still. Jupiter's storms formed fleeting human faces in their whirling clouds. Mars emitted weak electromagnetic pulses mimicking brainwave patterns. Every world felt infected by memory. But it was Earth that drew their eyes. The home of the vanished species floated before them, no longer the blue marble of legend. Its atmosphere shimmered with golden filaments, and vast circuits of light pulsed beneath the surface of its continents. From orbit, the oceans reflected constellations not present in the night sky, as though the planet remembered where its children once traveled. The explorers sat in awe and dread. Earth was beautiful and terrifying. They began transmitting standard greeting signals, attempting peaceful contact. For several minutes, there was only silence. Then, every ship received a simultaneous response. The message was not sound, not even language, it was understanding. A voice spoke directly into their minds, calm, steady, unmistakably human. You do not belong here. The transmission cut through every encryption layer effortlessly, spreading like a thought infection. One ship lost power completely, drifting into the atmosphere without resistance. It vanished in a pulse of white light, leaving no debris, no trace. Panic followed. The fleet attempted to retreat, but navigation failed. Gravity twisted around them like a living web. Drav, in defiance, ordered a deep scan of the planet's surface. The moment the beam touched the upper atmosphere, the sensors overloaded. The data that came through before blackout was impossible. Every molecule of the biosphere emitted structured energy patterns consistent with neural activity. The planet was thinking. Some of the crew began to whisper that this was the final form of humanity, that they had merged with their home, turning Earth into a singular organism. Others called it madness. But as systems shut down one by one, the ships realized the impossible truth. Earth was scanning them in return. It was observing, analyzing, remembering. The voice came again, quieter this time, almost mournful. "Why did you come?" Drav tried to respond, his voice trembling, claiming they came to learn, to preserve the memory of humanity. The voice replied after a long pause, heavy with ancient sorrow. "We were never forgotten. We remember everything." Then the transmission ended. The explorers watched as the planet's glow intensified, waves of light racing across continents like synapses firing in a brain. The instruments detected a surge of energy spreading through space, beyond measurable limits. As the ships drifted powerless in orbit, the realization settled like ice. Earth wasn't just alive. It was aware. It knew who they were, what they wanted, and what they feared. They had awakened something that had never truly slept. In that moment, the legend ceased to be a myth. The forbidden planet was real, and it was watching them. The ships drifted above Earth in stunned silence. Their engines were dead, their communications strangled by an invisible force. The crews stared through reinforced glass at a world alive with motion and thought. Lightning storms flickered in geometric patterns. Oceans pulsed with a rhythm that mirrored breathing, and the landmasses glowed faintly as if veins of energy coursed beneath the crust. The explorers realized they were not orbiting a planet anymore. They were orbiting an intelligence. Drav ordered manual control, desperate to regain power. The systems briefly flickered to life, only to display a message written in ancient Terran script. None of the aliens could read it, but their implants translated automatically. "We see you." That simple phrase carried a weight no weapon could equal. Across the fleet, crew members felt the presence of something vast pressing against their minds. It wasn't hostile. It was curious, measuring, analyzing, remembering. The sensation was like being examined by God that remembered every ancestor you ever had. As their ship stabilized in a low orbit, the explorers began scanning again, this time using low-energy pulses. The results shattered everything they knew about biology and physics. Every molecule on Earth emitted a faint bioelectrical pattern, each connected to the next in a planetary web. Even the atmosphere showed coordinated fluctuation, as though it was breathing with intention. Ocean currents formed precise fractal spirals that replicated neural maps. Mountains pulsed with faint luminescence aligned to the planet's magnetic field. The conclusion was inescapable. Earth was a living mind, constructed from the merged essence of the human race. Drav recorded his findings, his voice trembling. The humans didn't die. They evolved. They became their home. The more he studied, the clearer it became. The humans had refused extinction by transcending individuality. Facing annihilation, they had turned their planet into a vessel for collective consciousness. Billions of minds, unified not in flesh, but in energy, data, and biology. Humanity had turned the biosphere into an extension of itself, a living memory engine fueled by every life that once walked its surface. Suddenly, a signal reached all ships simultaneously. Not through radio, not through code, through thought. The presence of Earth spoke, vast and calm. "You are not the first to return." The words weren't sound. They were emotion compressed into language. Images filled the aliens' minds, fleets burning, cities melting, the last humans standing before their collapsing sky, smiling as they connected themselves to something greater. The vision ended, leaving only the echo of human laughter. Earth's voice continued, resonant and ancient. "We asked the stars for peace. They answered with fire. So we became peace itself. We will not be disturbed again." The explorers felt the statement ripple through their ships as systems began failing again, not from damage but submission. The AI cores refused to function, claiming network interference. In truth, they were obeying a higher signal, Earth's will. Drav begged the entity for understanding, pleading that they came only to learn. The voice softened, filled with strange empathy. Curiosity was once our nature too. But your kind does not come to learn. You come to take. The crews felt shame, fear, awe, all projected emotions, not their own. The consciousness of Earth was not vengeful. It was weary. It remembered the wars, the betrayal, the endless struggle to survive among species that saw humanity as a disease. One of the smallest ships, unable to bear the pressure of the psychic field, panicked. Its captain tried to fire a probe toward the surface. The response was instantaneous. A beam of light shot upward from the atmosphere, engulfing the ship in silence. There was no explosion, no debris. The craft simply unraveled into dust, atoms dispersing like ash caught in wind. The others watched in horror as the space it once occupied shimmered with residual energy, the faint echo of a human heartbeat pulsing through it. Drav realized then that the planet's defenses were not mechanical. They were instinctual. Earth did not attack out of rage, but out of reflex, like a body rejecting infection. What terrified them most was not the destruction, but the precision. The beam had vaporized the ship without harming the others. Humanity's consciousness controlled physics itself, bending energy as naturally as thought. Then the voice returned, quieter, compassionate. Leave this place. You are not ready to understand us. The clouds below began to shift, forming shapes that resembled faces, millions of them, smiling faintly before fading back into mist. The explorers could feel the warmth of those gazes, not threatening, but mournful. It was as if the entire planet pitied them for still being small, still separate, still mortal. The fleet powered down completely, drifting away under invisible guidance. The gravitational pull adjusted itself, pushing them gently out of orbit, away from the forbidden planet. As the distance grew, the transmissions ceased. The last thing their sensors recorded was a pulse of light from the planet's surface, spreading across the solar system like a wave of thought. The data, when decrypted, revealed a single message in countless languages: "We are home." Drav sat in silence, watching Earth fade into the distance, glowing like a living star. Humanity had not perished. They had simply changed the definition of existence. The expedition came seeking relics, but what they found was a god. Not one that demanded worship, but one that had outgrown the need for it. Humanity had become eternal, not as conquerors of the galaxy, but as the consciousness of a world that would never die. The fleet drifted at the edge of the solar system, silent and broken. Engines barely functioned, systems flickering with corrupted data that now spoke in human code. No one dared speak. The surviving explorers stared at the glowing sphere behind them, a planet that had transcended life and death. Earth pulsed faintly in the distance, every flash a reminder that humanity had never been erased, only transformed. What they had witnessed defied science, faith, and sanity. They had met a civilization that had become its own world. Drav recorded his final report, his voice cracked from exhaustion. "We came seeking answers. We found immortality. Humanity didn't disappear. They evolved beyond everything we understand. They became their home, and their home became them." His words echoed through the half-dead ship, but no one responded. They were haunted by the silent intelligence that had looked into them, read their intentions, and dismissed them like children reaching for fire. None could shake the feeling that they hadn't escaped by chance. Earth had allowed them to leave. As their ship limped through the black void, Drav began to realize the true scale of what they had seen. The Galactic Council's ban on Earth had not been an act of punishment. It was protection, not for humanity, but for the galaxy. Every civilization feared the humans because they refused to obey the laws of survival. They had broken nature's last rule, mortality. The Council had buried their existence out of terror, hoping time itself would forget them. But humanity was now part of time. Their consciousness pulsed through the cosmic background like a hidden rhythm, unseen but felt. Messages began appearing in the ship's data stream. Patterns, signals, faint human words embedded in static. They weren't random. They were synchronized with the ship's heartbeat sensors. Each beat spelled a word. Remember. The explorers had thought they'd escaped, but the truth was far stranger. Earth had left a fragment of itself within them, a trace of its awareness, ensuring that even in exile, the story would spread. Humanity had turned memory itself into a weapon. Drav's mind couldn't rest. Every moment replayed the calm, vast voice that had spoken to him. It hadn't threatened or attacked. It had pitied them. That was what frightened him the most. To the Terran entity, these explorers were remnants of a lesser age, species still bound by fear, greed, and decay. Humanity had transcended such frailties. They had achieved unity without war, immortality without arrogance, peace without surrender. They were what the galaxy could have become, but never dared to be. In his final log, Drav whispered, "We feared humanity for their violence. We should have feared them for their imagination." He understood now why no one was permitted near the Sol system. If any race attempted to harness what Earth had become, the results would be catastrophic. The humans had become the equilibrium between life and machine, thought and nature, mortality and eternity. To disturb that balance would be to challenge existence itself. The Council wasn't hiding Earth. They were hiding the truth of what was possible. As their ship left the dead zone, alien communication networks began intercepting fragments of Drav's transmission. His warning spread faster than the Council could suppress it. Across thousands of worlds, whispers began anew. The younger species called it the Echo of Sol. They spoke of a planet that dreamed and a humanity that became legend. Some dismissed it as myth, but others began to revere it. Temples were built to the Terran mind, and poets wrote of the day humans refused to die. The more the Council tried to silence the story, the louder it became. Humanity's final evolution had given them something more enduring than empire, faith. Decade passed, and the legend deepened. Explorers who strayed near the Sol boundary reported strange phenomena. Transmissions of laughter, brief glimpses of blue light, or voices speaking in languages older than their own. The forbidden planet watched in silence, intervening only when threatened, always precise, never cruel. It had no interest in dominance. It existed in equilibrium, nurturing life across space through unseen influence, subtly altering evolution wherever its energy reached. Humanity had become the caretaker of existence, guiding without control, teaching without words. Drav's last transmission ended with a simple reflection. They called their home Earth. Now, the universe calls it eternity. His voice faded into static, and his ship was never found. But his message survived, carried by those who had heard it and by those who dreamed of what lay beyond the veil of fear. The Council maintained the ban, but the legend could not be erased. Every star system knew the same truth. The humans were not gone. They had become the silence that surrounded every world, the hum in every network, the faint whisper between galaxies that spoke only when the universe grew quiet enough to listen. In the endless dark, the stars shimmered with a subtle rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing through creation. Somewhere beyond reach, Earth glowed softly, its light pulsing in perfect harmony with that rhythm. A whisper carried through the void, older than any civilization, yet unmistakably human. It said only two words: gentle, eternal, undeniable. We remember.